Market analysis for December 16th, 2025. Let's clear the desk here. Thank you, breakfast. That was delicious. And Ian just made it in. Oh, and there's Audrey Lynn.
Here I are.
Bonjour, comment ça va?
How are
Hello.
you? How goes it?
It goes.
Round and round.
Yes, sir.
Okay. I know the feeling. I am so far behind, I'm getting ahead.
You
I'm
think
lapping.
you're ahead.
I'm lapping myself. I have a saying that I've been doing this for a while. I've been saying, so there's you got people who are starting to go gray, and they are people who they typically think that are they're typically really good, like very attractive, right? And then you've got people who are going bald, and those people are really good thinkers. The idea is that the more active the brain is, the less the hair can grow because it's just too much energy. But that it was 28 when I started going gray and bald at the same time. So I only thought I was good looking.
Yeah, there you go. That was good.
Okay. We're going to chat a little bit about the Three Stooges today. The Three Stooges of the American economy. Can anybody guess who that is? Oh, wait a minute. How come this isn't showing me this part? There we go. Does anybody remember who the Three Stooges are of the American economy?
I'm not certain I've heard that term before.
Oh, how come my now my tablet's not working? I just had it working an hour ago for my meeting, and now it's just got disconnected. I have to reconnect it here. There we go. Okay. The first stooge. And I want to I really want to mention Microsoft here, not because it's one of the stooges that we're going to be chatting about today, but rather one of its brainchilds, amongst all kinds of other stuff. They've got cloud computing with Azure. They've got Teams, which has basically every meeting that if you've got a business that is running Word or Excel, you are likely also running Teams simply because it's part of the subscription. They bundle it all in there. Teams is imagine like a Telegram, but specifically for organizing conversations across a synchronistic remote working teams. So you got like, oh, well, the department for finance is in India and the department of marketing is in Germany, right? They use this software here. So all of that data has been recorded. And what happened was that Microsoft came up with this brilliant other idea, unrelated, called OpenAI. OpenAI is the first stooge we're going to talk about. As I'm going, if you've got questions, just wave or comment. If you're on YouTube, just comment. I'll see it out of the corner of my eye, hopefully. So OpenAI is the first stooge. Now, OpenAI has been really focused on ChatGPT over the last more than 5 years, but especially after it got released, they were on top of things. They released it for free, and I think it was free for like 30 days. Everybody could just have complete free access to it. And what they did with that 30 days is that they got people hooked. They had it doing amazing things. Oh, it can write essays for you. Oh, it can do your homework for you. Or you can do searches for it. It's like a Google that everybody wished was real. And that first 30 days, they came back out with a marketing campaign that basically got the people to tell them how much to charge for it. It was a questionnaire. It said, "How do you like this? Rate it on 5 stars. How much did you like it for this? How much did you like it for that?" They had all these different categories, and down at the bottom, it said for all these things, how much would you spend? Would you spend to keep all of these nice things? Well, that turned out to be $20 a month. That's all it was. So people were getting their homework done. They had more time to spend with family, friends, all the rest, and they were willing to spend $20 a month to continue having that. Now the cost on this, they tell us that they have so many users. I can't remember. I think they're getting close to a billion. Getting close to a billion registered users. But that their costs right now are about $10 million a day in compute. So that's a lot of energy because that's all we're really paying for. We're paying for electricity to do the computing, really, because the electronics themselves, it's a pretty hard fixed cost. You got your hardware and that's it. You got to power it. So $10 million a day in compute. Just need another drink here.
And it's probably safe to say while you're taking a drink there too, they have to also pay for a lot of cooling for that computerized power. So a lot of that energy has to do with fans and air conditioning and all that sort of fun stuff too.
Correct. Absolutely. That's why now they're talking about putting data centers in space
Yeah.
because it's cold out there. So now, and the first one, the one that I saw was something like, what's 1,000 petabytes? I can't remember, but it's like something like three times the size of the internet today. But that's just what they want to get up there to start things off. But that it'll likely just exponentially go up simply because AI is producing all of the content now. Oh, this is just such a renaissance, just incredible. Already, out of all of the material that's on the internet, written material that's on the internet, over 50% of it has been generated by LLMs. And that constitutes a large amount of money for OpenAI. But the thing is that OpenAI is a nonprofit organization, they call it. It's a nonprofit organization, so they don't have money. So then they need another stooge. Now it's NVIDIA. What does NVIDIA do? They create chips, processing chips. We will create chips that optimize the flow of electricity, the flow of that power. We will optimize these things so that they do better jobs. And they sell it and they've been selling these chips for a long time. NVIDIA is not a old company. They were making video graphic cards for our computers. Oh, Corey, when was the first chip you saw? I think the first one that I saw was like 14 or 15 years old for 486.
Yeah. Oh, it's been quite a while. We can go on using AI to try and find out this information.
Mm, Go ahead, yeah, bring that stat up. I'm gonna keep going on because Nvidia, what they want customers like OpenAI, right? But they want more than that. So they are providing chips for Grok and Gemini and what's the other one? Llama, which is this here is Meta's little machine.
Now, is OpenAI just a data center, or is it like a Grok or a ChatGPT or what?
Yeah, good question. OpenAI is the organization that builds and trains LLM models. ChatGPT, they got DALL-E, which is their their image generator. So uh, OpenAI would be actually the same as Grok AI, Grok.ai, where Grok is now an AI, or XAI, sorry, XAI, and Grok is one of the models.
Okay, because Grok is grok.com, not grok.ai.
Right. Yeah, I misspoke on that. X.ai is the company that Elon started that uses Grok as a model, trains Grok as a model. So this is Nvidia's customers,
Hmm.
the big data companies. But the thing is that these big data companies, they need a place to keep it. They need to keep this data someplace. And Nvidia doesn't do that. Nvidia does they build chips. They build chips, but they've been investing because what happened is that they needed a stooge. See, this was their specialty. This is what they were known for. But the real money maker in all of this whole trifecta, the real money maker is cloud storage. Because where in the world are people going to store all of this content that's being generated by AI? Nobody wants to keep on adding more hard drives to their home networks. Nobody wants to do that. So cloud computing has to come into play. So the third stooge is Oracle. So Oracle builds data centers. And we're just talking like racks and racks of servers. And they need customers too. Who are their customers? Oh, yeah, Nvidia. So we got and where the reason why they're sorry, I should say Oracle is a customer of Nvidia because Oracle needs the hardware. Oracle stores this data and manages it. So these are the data centers. Think of it as the host. They're the ones, like if you get a website, you got to get a host. That's what Oracle wants to do. Oracle wants to host. Who are their customers? Well, NVIDIA is not the customer. I said that, and it was not the truth. Their customer is OpenAI and Grok, or sorry, XAI and Gemini and Anthropic, and that's another one. Meta and Anthropic. The legacy models, they're called. So that's who needs the space. So Oracle provides that. NVIDIA provides the hardware. OpenAI and all of the rest, they are ones providing the customers. And so their job is very simple. Keep. Actually, I'll use a different word here so it's more specific. Arrest people's attention. The only currency the elites really care that we pay them. So they're getting the attention. Oracle is going to get the space, the real estate, so to speak, the digital real estate. NVIDIA is going to be providing the mechanics, the mechanical engineering and construction of this infrastructure. But what's happening at the moment is just a nonstop promise of business that has no there's nothing grounding it whatsoever. In fact, one of the things that we chatted about, I think it was probably about 3 weeks ago, on just Dario, in his article, he was talking about how Nvidia literally came out and said, yeah, all of this money's talked about, 300 billion over here that needs to happen. You know, Nvidia is gonna pledge, or yeah, they're gonna pledge 100 billion over here, over as an investment to OpenAI, because they need to know that they can have the they need to know that ChatGPT has the money to pay for the infrastructure that needs to be set up over at Oracle. And Oracle, they said, okay, well, if hey, ChatGPT, if OpenAI, sorry, if OpenAI can come up with that 100 billion, we'll come up with 300 billion. And we'll give that over to Nvidia so that they can build chips, because we need that infrastructure. That's the investment. Remember, where did all this money come from? Where did this come from? Where did this idea of 300, 100 billion, where did all of these numbers come from? Does anybody remember? Project Stargate. If you were in Next Gen Merchants, you would have had a really cool conversation last Wednesday with us about what the printing press did for the peasant. It's called Project Stargate for a reason. This is their little machine that they're building. And they are banking on everybody subscribing. Okay, this is going to be the three stooges that the United States government says you're allowed to use for AI. Okay? Just think of this as, you know, remember in 2020? Well, you probably don't remember this. Maybe, I don't know. I was watching Moderna and Pfizer, AstraZeneca. I was managing and people called them medical, in the medical industry. And no, that was actually under synthetic biology. That's where it was actually under, in the whole realm of emerging markets. So they, back then, what they were doing was that they created a really terrible situation, and all of those companies were the ones who already had everything in place before COVID was even a word. Okay? Well, these are the companies now that have got everything in place before the next crisis is upon us. So these are the three stooges. But we're going to go and look at their charts now for market analysis. I just wanted to give that snapshot of what's the playing field right now. Why is it that these guys have so much money? That goes back to Project Stargate. Trump announced Project Stargate within a day or two after his inauguration, and he said it was going to be $500 billion. Well, this is more than 500 billion. This is 700 billion. So how does that work? And that's why Nvidia last month made the slip up that they might need a backstop. It's because there's so much money at stake. They can't have everybody lose. They just finished getting all pumped up from Trump back in January. They can't lose at this point. There has to be a backstop. There has to be a bailout. They're just that big. So now we're going to go over to the charts. We're going to look at the three stooges and their stocks. Dum-da-da-dum. This is Oracle. Now, this is on the weekly chart, okay? So this chart here starts in March of 1986. That's when Oracle came about in this chart. They might have even been earlier than that. Here we can see 88, 89. Look at how things were crazy. 91. Going into 1991 here, it dropped down. Not a problem. Not a problem, because that was just getting ready. What? Market manipulation. Nice low prices back to these old lows from 87. That's nice. Let's buy there, shall we? 1990, going into the time where now, into 92, 93, I was playing on CompuServe. My grandparents lived in the city, and I was already doing some peer-to-peer chats. 93, 94, that's when the internet came to my parents' place. Out in the boonies, we were way outside. We couldn't even get connected at 56.6 baud. We couldn't even get connected to that. We had to go 36.6. And that took 2 hours to download a 30-second video. And it was 360p, not 1080, 360. It's a little tiny little window. And everybody gathered around the computer because it was the biggest, it was a historic moment. We were watching a video of an elephant from San Diego Zoo. And I thought the encyclopedia was awesome. Oracle continued to grow. A big spurt here going into 1998 into 2000. Big spurt. The dot-com boom didn't even touch these guys. Where was that? That was 97. Look, it barely did anything to them. Price went up in September of 2000. Look at that. September 11th specifically was the all-time high. $46.60. I'm going to mark that one. There it is. Yeah, that's good enough. Okay. So there we have it. Now it went back down, retraced back downwards. Now, what happened during this time? Does anybody remember what happened during this time other than 9/11 and the War on Terror? Patriot Act came into force and effect, during which time it was driven, the price of tech went down drastically.
Was that also not the time of the housing bubble?
Yes, well, it was definitely well underway. Yeah, well underway.
That was 2007 and 8.
The actual pop was the 2007 and 8, but you're right. During 2002, 2003, man, they made the entire TV series had humor, like laces of humor about how low interest rates were. You could get a house that you could never your parents could never afford this kind of house. Look at how amazing this house is, and zero down and below prime interest rates.
Well, the September 11th, 2001 never happened till 2/3 of the way down that downturn. September 11th, 2001.
Oh, I apologize. You're right.
Yeah.
You're right.
But,
I'm looking at this and it's 2000. That was September 2000 where it was at the all-time high.
Yeah. So what you're looking at is Y2K happened prior to that.
That's right. Prior to that, here we go. Let's zoom in a little bit. So there's almost it is a double top. March of 2000 and then September of 2000. August and September.
So
thank you for pointing that out.
Yeah, so things were really, launching upwards during the whole Y2K scare.
Yep. Yep. And then that turned out to be pretty much nothing.
Yeah.
But I did play a trick though. I played a trick on my community because we had the little, community hall that was half an hour out of town, and that's all it was. Well, there was the community hall. Across the way, there was a church, and then there was the old hall, which was originally the post office, 1921. So we're at community event, Y2K, everybody's making jokes about it, and the countdown's going on, and everyone is doing the whole cheering and getting drunk. Meanwhile, I was on the board for the whole community. So I went over to the breaker box and I shut her down when they reached zero. Yeah.
I love that. That's my style of. That's my style.
Yeah. Because I knew it was a big scam.
And what
I
did the
was
money
building
do?
computers and when I was 12 years old, 1992, I started building computers. So I saw everything. Everybody's freaking out about Y2K, and I'm like, oh my god, these people are so dumb. How they think computers work. There was even one I remember in September. I shouldn't say that. It was August of 1999 where they came out with this thing on the news where it said, get this, there is a code, there is like a big delete code that programmers use. And in the programming language for Microsoft in DOS, there's this code, and it's 911, 911. And when they put in that code, it translates into complete shutdown. So we could be seeing a shutdown of the entire of the entire the whole thing. We're going to see a shutdown of everything. You're not going to be able to buy fuel on September 11th, they said. That's how I knew September 11th, 2011 or 2001 was a scam. Because I was like, what? 9/11 was when the computers were going to shut down in the media. And they ran that for like 2 weeks or something like that. And then they stopped before it actually happened, almost like people forgot. And then, of course, the Y2K itself. It was good times. And Oracle was building their foundation that whole time. And it was in December of 2014 where it went above that old-time high. March 2017. And they continued to grow. But I want to bring our attention to the last 5 years in particular. Here is March of 2020. This is the momentum that came in from COVID when everybody got scared. And the media just did the same thing that they did for Y2K, get everybody scared. Oracle takes off, but look at how this pattern ends up. We have this high here, which became what? A pivot point. That's where it took off and continued to rise after this big, nice long stretch, 2020 going into 2021. This was alt season, folks. Alt season took off during this time. Then we had the retracement coming back into, this is now March, May, June, July, September 2022. Found that old resistance, took off, and went way above those old highs. Those old highs now became support automatically later on. Support in October 2023, going up. Then it came back, found support on the previous high. We are now on support for the previous high, folks. You know what would be really timely right about now? Just saying. Let's move on. NVIDIA. Reportedly, the largest corporation in the world. NVIDIA's chart starts here January of 1999. We're going to look at the last 5 years in particular. Here's COVID. Oh, no, that's October 18. Here we go, right here. February. Look at a little tiny blip there, and then it just took off. Found some support back here. I don't even think that was a previous high. Nah, it was not even a previous high. That would just became support, locked in, jumped up. It has not even come back to test previous highs yet. This one. There. Finally. This high from March 2024 finally got retested twice before now coming up to new highs again. Where is this going to go? Who knows? But all we know is that all of the business that they have that has been talked about by the Three Stooges in the media and how awesome it is and just great because it's Stargate. Stargate, look where we're headed, folks. Project Stargate needs to happen because all of this growth here is all Great Reset growth. This can't go down now. They're too big. They're estimated to be $5 trillion now with all that business. But they literally said last month, there is no business in place. This was their disclaimer for investors. There is no business in place. There is no promise of there being business in the future. And we do not make any guarantees that we even want to complete any business yet. You can go and read about that in just Dario's past articles.
Wow, sounds like the ideal stocks.
Like, how do you not see Enron already? Like, was not Enron a big enough of a traumatic experience for the markets for us to be like, okay, well, let's not let that ever happen again? All right, that's Stooge number 2. OpenAI. Oh, wait a minute. What is the name of the company again? I can't remember. Look it up. OPAI. No. What's going on here? Company level. No data. Weird. Hey, Maureen.
Hi, this is the only, I found this in one of the emails. Oh, I found this in one of the emails.
Oh, good, good. I'm glad you could make it.
Yeah, I am too. Is this
All
the
right.
only, is this the only link that works, Paul?
At the moment.
Okay, so I'm gonna put this, let me, I'll be right back.
Sure thing, yeah. OpenAI network. No, Matt, this is not what I'm looking for either. Interesting. Where is the stock for this? Well, let's go to Microsoft because if you go back far enough, you'll see that OpenAI is not a nonprofit. It is very much a for-profit corporation that just sends it all back to Microsoft in the end. Oh yeah, look at this. So Microsoft is also finding old highs as support. July 2024. This is an unprecedented moment in history. Can anybody have questions about this? Anybody have things that they want to comment on this? What are they seeing? Remember, this is all about pattern recognition. We talked about the pattern recognition that I had about Y2K. I had the same thing for the iPhone. I knew exactly what was going to happen. When I saw that iPhone come out, I was already working 2 years on a Palm Pilot keeping the inventory for Cal Tire. I saw exactly what that phone was going to do. And I said towards the end of 2008 that websites are going to have to be built differently because you're going to have people who are on a desktop that need to look at a website on a big screen, and then you're going to have people on these little tiny things and using the Palm Pilot being connected to the internet. I hated using the browser. It was a terrible experience. And as soon as the phone came out, I was like, okay, well, now everybody's going to get these things in their pockets. Websites are going to have to be built differently. That was 2 years before the word responsive was even in the developers community. Where, responsive websites, now you don't need 2 versions. Responsive websites are we build one version and it automatically scales to different layout depending on what size your screen. It's way easier to program than having different websites depending on what device Like, you'd literally had to create 2 different websites before. I saw it again when I saw how text marketing was going to be a thing. SMS text marketing. I was going around telling businesses, you're going to want this text marketing stuff. And they would, why? Why does anybody want marketing on their phone? And I was like, well, it's not that you do marketing, but it's so that you can build a relationship with them on their phones. Because these phones are just going to be in everybody's pocket. Like, they're going to be smart. They're going to be able to click a button and go to your website and check out your menu and make a reservation, all from their text. You know what they told me? Forget about it. They said, no, that'll never happen. That was 2011. 2013 is when I finally clued in, finally finished piecing together everything that happened with the housing bubble in 2008. And when that popped, I finally started really piecing things together. That's when I learned about the financial system and what it was. That's when I found out about the personage and all. Well, I didn't find out about that. I found out about that in 2008, but again, making the connections to us just literally living in another empire's idea of a trade route. And so then I stopped paying taxes. And of course, ostracized from everybody as a result. Got some crazy stories to talk about that one day. And then I saw it again. COVID came around. And before it was even a thing, in fact, let's take this down. Don't need to have the screen up there anymore. What is going on? There we go. Then I saw it again, 2019, December. The Stooges at the time were Pfizer, the AstraZeneca, Moderna. Those were the bad ones, and we all knew it. We all knew that they already had the contracts. We were watching how their stocks were adapting. And we knew it was going to be a rug pull too, because of course this was going to be a massive failure and that millions upon millions of people were going to die. And I did. I had to go through depression to figure out how to forgive people for flinging themselves off cliffs like lemmings by signing up for this experimental bioweapon of mass destruction. And to watch that occur was such an isolating experience. I've never felt so alone in all my life. Feeling like I was the only one who could see what was happening. And everyone else only wanted to follow. Crazy. The patterns are back. Key players in this one. Yes, the Three Stooges. I believe that that's the front. I think that these are going to collapse. There's going to be a major problem with these companies, and everyone's going to be pissed off about it. And everyone's going to be angry. But they will not be seeing what's happening in the background. Things like Palantir. How Palantir is literally right there, sitting inside Oracle, taking in all that information. They are the gateway, the middleman between OpenAI and all their models. ChatGPT, Dolly, there's the new one, Sora, video generation. All of them are going through Palantir's infrastructure before it is validated on the servers. That's what people don't see happening. So when all of this goes down, who do you think is going to be there to save the day? It have to be the government. Why? Because Palantir's involvement in this is a Department of Defense contract. Who's the fucking commander-in-chief over there anyways? And everybody gets, sorry, I get angry about this because people are talking about, oh, this is a good thing that Trump is doing this or that or this or that. And I'm like, he's the commander-in-chief while Palantir is conducting this. He was also the commander-in-chief during the project, what was the last one? Warp Speed, where that biological weapon had to be injected into people's bloodstreams at warp speed. No, there is nobody there that is on your side, folks. Oh, I get passionate about that. I knew Trump was a danger back in 2016. Why? Because of Q. Q is a classic example. I would love to do a presentation on this. In the Bolshevik Revolution, when the Bolsheviks took over Russia, they used propaganda to weaken the people. Fancy that. And the propaganda that they really capitalized on was targeting the more right wing, the anti-establishment, the conservatives. They wanted to make sure that they had them under wraps because they were the most likely to take action if the government became tyrannical. And the campaign was literally a lie sent into the alternative media, the controlled opposition, where they said, don't worry about what's going on in the government. We know it's terrible, and here's all of the reports of all the terrible things that they're doing. And of course it was legit because it was the truth. These are the terrible things that the Bolsheviks are doing. But then they had the final message: trust the plan. So I knew that Trump was bad news in 2016 because I was introduced to Q at that time. When he first ran, when he was first saying he was going to run, I didn't know about Q yet. But the moment I saw Q, I was like, no. You poor people, you poor, sad, unfortunate souls. Watching, what are they doing? What are they doing? Well, let's go back to this here because this is what's going on. Remember, imagine the internet all over again. Remember how crazy it went? Like the internet came out and then it just a sensation. Everybody was talking about it. And it changed everything. It changed how we send information back and forth. We got printing presses that can talk to each other and instantly print on each other's computers. I can send something and have the capacity to push the print button on a printer that's not in the same building. What craziness is that? It's a miracle. How is that possible? How is it that we're getting to this? It's because this has been the metric the entire time. The only metric that makes it possible is attention. Whenever people are paying attention to something, always ask yourself why. Why are they paying attention to that? And if the answer sounds like so that they can avoid a certain fear, it's to avoid, if we need to avoid destruction, the end. We need to avoid the adversary from taking what's ours. We need to prevent things from being taken from us. If that is the reason why people are paying attention to it, the chances are it is there specifically to manipulate. I remember I grew up super conservative Christian. I was astonished astonished that my parents thought the internet was okay. That they let it in the house. I was astonished. I couldn't believe it. Why? Because I was raised for before that, there were 3-4 years where we heard about how the internet was coming, just like we're hearing about how the digital ID is coming today. Those 3-4 years before the internet came out, I was fully programmed and indoctrinated in the Christian faith that the internet was going to be evil, that it was the mark of the beast. That was what I was programmed with. So when the internet came out and my parents got it, I was amazed, astonished, and grateful, because for a moment I felt like I could actually reach outside the world that I lived in, the world that was hostile. Like I had a very hostile world, and I felt free. It's like, wow, I get to experience worlds outside of this world. I had pen pals, but then I had pen pals with the internet. Amazing. A couple weeks ago, we talked about attention versus intention. And what I want to always strive for, I am not the best at this. I probably fail 10 times a day. What I would like to do, my intention, is that we all increase the quality of our attention. Because if our attention is on all that nonsense, that terrible news, if our attention is on things that get us to be fearful, that get us to be defensive, that get us to be divisive, if we are recognizing that the language patterns we're paying attention to are programming us, then we are no better than the people that threw themselves off cliffs.
Derivation of the word
2021. Oh, Maureen, did you have something, Maureen?
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't know I was muted. I wanted to know the derivation of the word attention. And I'm thinking it's outside of attention, and intention is intention.
Yeah, one is an outward projection and one's an inward. Absolutely.
Well, I'm looking more at the sensation of the body, in the sense that when you're at ease, you have access to all possibilities. When you're focused with intention and attention, then you're limited and you're in a certain paradigm. You're taking a certain position at that point. Not that that's good or bad, but that there's a toggling back and forth, because what's good for the eyes and what's good for our survival is that we both have the big view, the content and the context. But when we're just zeroed in on one particular thing, we lose the context, so that we don't know like say attention. I'm sorry. See, that's why I thought I was muted, because I wanted to go to that, and this is taking you off your agenda, and I don't mean to do that. But
No,
it's
I don't think it's taking me off at all. Go ahead, continue.
Well, when you notice in the body, and this is part of my study that I'm doing right now, that when you're at ease, you have the availability of the inner biointelligence that arises from all that is, the biggest context that you can go to. Let's just put it that way. But when you're focused in on something, like say, let's just take a bird. When they see a worm, an eagle, when he sees like a bird, something of prey, he'll hone right in on that. But if the chicken at the same time, because I'm thinking here, if the chicken isn't like got this broad view, he's not going to see, all the possibilities if he's focused in on his little feed. Do you see what I'm saying? There's a danger in that. There's a survival mechanism at work.
Can you bring it back to what we were talking about, attention versus intention? I hear what you're saying. I'm
Okay.
not seeing the connection of
Okay.
what
Intention is when you're focused. You've alerted your body, and the body is alert.
I would argue that I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm saying
No.
I would argue that attention is the focus, intention is the quality.
Okay, and you could argue that, but if we take
Just
the derivation of in, which it means in, and tension, which is tightness, focus, what the body does to focus, and that's why I want to know the derivation. And I'm just, this is what I'm going with right now. Usually means outside.
Ian, it sounded like you've got the dictionary there.
I do.
Ah, beautiful,
Go for
beautiful.
it.
The etymology, the AT, both of those words, root word is tend, TEND. Okay, so the AT is equal to add or AD, toward. That's the idea, toward, to or toward, to pay attention. Okay, so attention means to stretch the mind toward. That's what the AD or the AT,
Stretch mind
the mind
toward.
toward. Okay. Intention, the in has more to do with force and eagerness.
Amazing. So then when I hear that again, going back to intention, I think of like how is this, right? What is the quality of this force and eagerness? Is it, lackluster? I'm reminded of the words in red. I would that you would be hot or cold. Right? That to me reflects the intention behind the attention. If we're going to be spending time on something, if we're going to be stretching the mind towards something, if we're going to be fixated on something, this determines the quality of the attention. If we are in force and eagerness, in full judgment of what's happening, I think that is of less quality than if our intention was simply to observe.
Yeah, the IN definitely does mean something that's within,
Totally.
inside. Okay, so
Like an internal force or
internal
eagerness.
force and eagerness. So that's where the word intensity really reflects.
Yeah. Maureen, come
Well,
on back and
yeah,
what are you hearing now?
well, like, and I'm just going to say, and I'm looking at all of this, and it's always to hold it lightly, because for me. So
Yes.
if the intention, the bigger intention, is to have this be useful and to see what is the energy patterns that come with this word. If that would be my intention, my overall intention, and that's where I would be directed, focused attention at something. And so my whole way I want to be present with that is to have it held lightly and be fluid, so that it can match there's going to be a this is my new word now, biotensegrity.
Ooh.
And it's a Buckminster Fuller kind of a concept. It's a balancing and a dynamic movement that the inside matches the outside. That's how something is held. And instead of, say, the greatest force is that rather than gravity, this is kind of a thing that Pollock is going toward with water and how we're electric beings. So, and then if you have a biotensegrity, so we're the bio life tense, holding it in, tending to it, or its mass, right, and force. So say like I'm meeting, say you're saying something, I match you, and I match your quote life force energy moving forward. And if you match mine, then we hold a space that something, because it's dynamic, something new tensegrity, integrity,
Oh,
because it has to do with the whole. Tensegrity, biotensegrity. And it's how the body is held. It's how all things are held.
Fascinating. So, by the sounds of it, what I'm hearing you say, and correct me if I'm wrong or if I'm not relaying this correctly, but that our bodies have a physiological response to where we are and how we are, where we are looking, where we're paying attention, and how we're interpreting that. Yeah?
Think about when you're just sitting on a chair or you're standing on the ground. Your feet are matching, your body's matching the pressure that's needed to keep you upright.
Right.
And you're held in that energetic electromagnetic field. You're held within that. You match. When you're invaded is when the outside forces are greater than the inside forces because you
Mhm.
can't hold the boundary. And then what happens if it's too great? You start putting up tension. You're creating. I need to, you know, I need to have more tension here.
Right.
Well, I mean, if we just think about it as a dynamic of life, I don't know where this is taking. This is like
Well,
where
the one question I have is, since it is our responsibility to be mindful of how they're programming language, it infiltrates our psyche. It would be good to know what body adaptations create experiences. What kinds of experiences can we be mindful of when we're hearing these words?
it's okay. So when you do that, you are quiet and non-intentional. You're quiet, and then you let something emerge, and it tells you if you're holding something in tension or not.
Oh,
Which
you're saying before we can be aware, you're saying we need to be quiet and non-intentional.
because it's so loud. The outside is very loud, and the programming is very loud.
Right.
And the receptors in the body, like when you take like say exercise, this is how it's used in soma sensing. You have an exercise program, you're using force and will, a template on the body to move in a certain way. And when you have that force, you're not letting the body produce its natural movement. It's not flowing in a natural, it's like moving a stream and damming it.
Right. What is it? What we're after here is, what is
Yeah.
it that we can associate with to help us recognize how our bodies respond to this?
So what you have to do is you have to get quiet, because the receptors in the body that listen to the biointelligence of the fascia are called the A fibers. It's either the A or the C fibers, and they're very quiet. They have no myelin sheath, so it's the still, quiet voice within. So,
Yes.
so
What
what?
would that's
Let's.
still that is what I'm looking for is the trigger, right?
I
I
know.
recognize what you're coaching us to do, I think, but it's not saying, okay, so let's say for instance, language comes out and it's fearful. What is the body sensation that we're looking for in order to identify, oh, that's fear based?
First, though, see, first it's like what's foundational, because we're anesthetized to our body messages
Yes.
because of all the loudness.
Right.
So we don't even know where to go. It's there
But
in
you
the
just said it. you just said to where to go. So after this, once we have this quiet and non-intentional state, I agree. We'll be more receptive and even more attuned to the physiological response.
Then what happens is there's an inclination of what's called fascia, which is not the connective tissue, but actually the biointelligence of the body. It's the sensing organ, the foundational thing that makes up everything, the original cell. And the reason why I say this is what I hold. This may be totally off track, but the first cell that we have before the nervous system, before the heart, before anything is formed, we have fascia, which carries all the stem cells in it. And from that dynamic movement comes all the organs are made. And they match what is needed in the environment. You know how evolution occurs? It says, oh, it doesn't have much water. Well, let's do this, adapt to it in this way. So the biointelligence of that fascia will develop an organ that can conserve water, or whatever the outward situation is, because it's about what's outside. What we do is we adapt to what's outside to survive. But we're not listening to the biointelligence of the body. We're listening to the programs that we're given.
Right.
And they're very loud. So just like Christmas, let's just take Christmas. Christmas is the inner birth of the Christ spirit, right? Of the Christ consciousness. What do you need to do to hear that? You need to go within. Nature is dark, right? It wants you to go inside during that time. Maybe not in the Southern Hemisphere, but it's so the natural inclination at Christmas time is to go within, to be quiet, to listen. So what does our culture say to do? Go out, put a lot of bright lights out there. Let's have a lot of festivities. Let's eat. Let's drink a lot till we get drunk. Let's have, these crowded family gatherings so you can't ever hear what the energetic gift of the universe at this time in the world. At this time,
like that.
Space-time continuum.
I love that.
How do we do, like where you live, Paul? Like what happens when you go out to the forest? You recalibrate.
Yeah, totally. There's even a reset.
But look at where our culture's absolutely. Look at where our culture, okay, more screen consciousness, more get on the screens. This is our communication. This is everything. We don't know how the light, look at the light. We develop lights at night so that we never have the circadian rhythm. You know what I'm talking about. Anyway, so this is kind of like what I'm like, how do I interface with you? I'm trying to figure it out. I'm trying to go with what's flowing here. How do I communicate with you in a way that I still can be outside and get the light and listen and be quiet? How do I do that? When everything inside of me has been trained to do the opposite.
Right. Yeah. Audrey Lynn, I know you had something that you wanted to share.
What you're talking about, Miss Maureen, reminds me so much of a modality that fascinates me, but I have not been allowed to participate in. And that's just because I get redirected every time I look at it. It's called matrix repatterning. And it was developed here in Canada, in the East Coast, by a man who acts in the capacity as a chiropractor, to facilitate the removal of traumatic energy patterns, as in an impact or a injury or emotional trauma that got stuck in the body. And the method that he uses is incredibly light. It's very much so like the cranial sacral type pressure. But it feels kind of woo-woo, but it's not. It's very scientific in what it does. And it's the foundations of his thought is the tensegrity model that you were talking about. is that it's to gently release this fascia and to, using the kind of pressure so that it's way under the body's stress response to facilitate movement. Yeah, very cool modality. Very, very cool. And now it's to the point where he will only educate people who have multiple letters after their name.
Amazing.
What do you mean multiple letters after their name?
Oh, like
You gotta be
doctor or
you gotta have a
physio
degree.
or
Oh,
some
okay.
levels of degrees.
Okay.
And I had the opportunity to take the education before that was a requirement. Money got in the way. And it's only he only teaches in the Toronto area. He doesn't, he was considering coming to the West Coast, but apparently that all fell through. Yeah.
You're on mute, Maureen.
The difference that's happening in this program that I'm in is that she guides you to your own way of doing it, that you are the author of it. And
Right.
it's from the inside out. Any template that you use from the outside, I mean, it can be a suggestion, but that shift happens when you feel held. I don't feel that held yet. I'm waiting, and I'm, it's like I've got the lights, the maidens with the lights. I keep the oil lamps lit, because that's the most, and it's paying attention, and it's gradually shifting, and it's gradually, but it produces a little havoc in your life, because look at how I've had to miss being here with you guys and learning about this, and I want to learn about this. So I have my own tension patterns going on about how do I, and so I just have to keep being quiet and just trying to pay attention. I've been taught to soldier on through my body, through the little voice. Oh, let's just continue walking up the stairs. Don't stop because you feel a pain. Come on, get up the stairs and get to bed.
Ian, would you share your insights on this as well? Because I recognize the language pattern similarity to what Elijah experienced, where it was only the still small voice where he was able to hear God.
So, well, I think when it comes to a lot of this stuff, I think the identity that we embrace is probably much more significant and important. I think, Paul, you and I've chatted before about a guy who spoke to a group of principals at a seminar, and he was a speaker, and he asked, how many of you feel that have thoughts of not being enough, not being, I'm not good enough, I'm too old, too young, too whatever. And everybody put up their hands. And he said, how many of you have thoughts where you think you're just right for the job, you've got precisely the education you needed, you're astute enough, you're mentally fit, et cetera, et cetera. Nobody put up their hand. And he said, there's my point. He said, all of you have embraced an identity that is contrary to what God intended you to have. And this comes back to our ability to listen to that still small voice. For me, it's listening to the Lord speak to me. It's listening to what he has to say about who I am, what he wants me to do, how he wants me to. I never ask the question why. I used to. I never ask the question why anymore, because he said, basically I wouldn't understand. He'd have to download on me that in a way that I couldn't comprehend,
Right.
So I'm not sure if I'm catching the drift of everything that Maureen was referring to, or that you were referring to, Paul, but all of this, what I am, who I am, my being informs what I do, not the other way around. A lot of people think, well, I'm the CEO of this company. Oh,
Mm-hmm.
okay. Well, who are you? Because what you are, what you do, doesn't inform me about what you are, who you are. Um, you know, um, Everything about what we're talking about originates out of people who believe something about themselves, their
Mm-hmm.
identity. And whether it's NVIDIA or Donald Trump or Mark Carney or Prince Charles or some oligarch out of Russia,
Yeah.
um, they believe something about themselves. And for most of us, what we believe is a lie
Right.
because we're taught right from infancy that that's appropriate, that's not appropriate. Our education system, the entire education system, is based on you're not allowed to make mistakes because
Yeah.
mistakes end up with a big X on it.
Yeah.
Mistakes are what make us.
Mm-hmm.
You
Mm-hmm.
know. Anyhow, those are some of my thoughts.
Thank you.
I
I,
see a lot of agreement in that. There's, just yeah.
this really does. I'm of the same mind. It is down to our identity. If we are identifying ourselves as susceptible to these fear tactics, then it will be very difficult for us to have that stillness. And I absolutely love it. I want to bring up a word here. We're going to close things off here pretty soon, but I want to bring up a word because I think that this is very much in line with this idea of identity, bringing calmness, bringing that stillness to our lives. And the question is, first off, this is the ponderance that I believe we need to have is, how do you relate to yourself? But let's get an idea of what the word relate means. Audrey Lynn and I looked this up here last week, and we're quite amazed. In the 1520s, it was to recount and tell, from French relater, refer, report, and directly from Latin relatus, used as past participle of refer, bring back, bear back. See refer, from back again. Latus, borne, carried. Meaning stand in some relation, have reference or respect, blah, blah, blah. Establish relation between. Where was that other? Was that other? Maybe it was something that you had read, Audrey Lynn, where it said, yes, here we go. Transitive sense from 1640s, to bring something into relation with something else, to establish, no, it was bring forward, bring. Yeah, I can't remember where it was that we saw it, where it had that idea that what they're referencing here is the past. That this is not the current thing. So that when we are relating to ourselves, are we bringing back, are we bearing the history in the definition of who we are? Is that how we're going to relate to ourselves? I'm guilty of it all the time. I am so guilty of taking my history, relating it to who I am today. Saying I'm this way because I made that mistake. I'm this way because the chiropractor twisted my neck improperly when I was 2 years old. I have all these definitions in how I relate to myself. And the question that I think we have, that is important for us to ask is, how do you relate to yourself? Because how you answer this question can pretty much dictate the outcome that you'll have. If we are if we're making our identity fit into a certain box, then what we've done is that we have then closed off a certain spectrum, a huge wide spectrum of possibility. We've narrowed in on a specific horizon, saying, no, that's the only direction that I can go because this is who I am. Tom Campbell had a great lesson about this, where he said, the moment you say you know someone, you have denied them being someone else in the moment.
I think equally important, Paul, and I totally agree with that. I totally agree with looking out at a kaleidoscope of possibilities, of allowing that. And I think it's hardest with the people that we love and that are closest to us, because they feel some need within us, that there's always that. But the other question is there's another part of that formula or equation, and that is, who are we?
You mean as in
who
all?
to relate, there's the one and the other. The one and the other. The relationship presupposes two.
Oh, I see what you mean. Yep.
And so the two,
Who are the we?
the two, and how we regard that, because where does it come from? Does it come from within? Like, are we one? The two are one. That's what Vedanta says is the one without a second. We are the one without a second, because there is no other. There's just us. But I think that's where attention, that spark of infinity, or the soul, or God's child, whatever you want to call that incredible, and how we regard the other is a mirror for how we regard ourselves. So all of those are wonderful things to bring forth this, and then who we associate with in the greater circles, and how do we reenact that whole creation story, salvation story, redemption story within us, and the gifts of gold, frankincense, and myrrh. What
Yeah.
great gifts.
This is what I'm reminded of when you were saying that, how do we define who we are? And even the definition that we give ourselves doesn't come from who we are. Because they're just more language patterns that come from this thing, right? I'm exploring this idea of never defining myself ever again, because I want to be open to what can I be present to. If I'm defining myself, if I'm relating myself to a certain identifier, then you know what? It's going to be all noise, right? You were saying, be quiet and non-intentional. Well, how can it be quiet and non-intentional if you're identifying yourself in the listener as a specific type of listener?
But what if you're the fluid dynamic of that creation moment, that the real identifier is just describing the experience in time, and wonder if, we don't hold it. A neighbor came by and he was talking about the pocket witch. He was reading a poem written by a child who talked about adults, grown-ups, having a pocket witch. And
Okay.
I love that, because it's a position. It's a position that we hold. Oh, I know what everything's about. Here it is. I got it in my pocket. It's, to vote against Trump. It's to, live in a house that looks like this. Oh yeah, this is what life's all about. And she was describing a child as saying how silly that was, and how that wasn't true, and how what that did to children and growing up, and grown-ups stopped growing. They just were grown up, and that was it. They were finished. And that, to me, is when you've got stuck with an identifier. Even the label Christianity, even good ones. I love God,
Mm-hmm.
Well,
Mm-hmm.
sometimes I don't, sometimes I don't feel anything, blah, blah, whatever the dynamic. So it's just to be fluid. And then the health of the organism, to me, it's such a wonderful metaphor, because we go where we we'll grow and expand and be more and offer our gifts to the world.
Right.
And the movement, and then there's entropy in that, isn't there? Because we have to get rid of all that we, just like throwing out trash in the house. Oh yeah, we already ate that. Let's move the garbage out.
Yeah.
So I don't know anymore. That's because I got a big cup of I don't know.
And I
try
think
to
we
drink
need to
from it
stop
often.
trying. I think we need to stop trying to think that we need to know. It's like this other thing. It's like, what does the knowing do for us, really, in the end?
Well, I think this is a telling point that in the Garden of Eden, it was the uh, fruit of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil that was the thing that was not to be touched or
Right.
tasted. Okay, so what is it really? It's nothing more than the ability to make a determination, to make a judgment, and it's intriguing that that Adam and Eve, the first thing that they did after they ate the fruit of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil is they judged themselves. They saw themselves as naked.
Wow.
And God said to them, "Who told you were naked?" And so they judged themselves, and then they began judging one another immediately. First, Adam judged God, said, "The woman you gave to me."
Yeah.
And and then in the same breath judging her as well. So judgment, that ability to determine between what is good and evil, because up until that point, all they had known or comprehended, had experienced was good, nothing but good. They had no conceptualization of evil. But she said that she saw the fruit, that it was good to taste, which in the New Testament is referred to as the lust of the flesh. She saw that it was beautiful, which in the New Testament is referred to as the lust of the eyes, and that it was good to make her wise, which in the New Testament is referred to as the boastful pride of life. So in 1 John chapter 2, verse 6. So we have this thread throughout the Bible of these three things: the lust of the flesh, the lust of the eyes, and the boastful pride of life, all which began in the Garden of Eden. And what's the result of it? We first judge ourselves, and then we judge other people. We make determinations that come out of our own sense of who we are.
Our own little legal fiction.
Yeah. So my greatest activity, and I'll tell you, I've learned this late, even though I've been a believer in Christ most of my life. I've only learned this in the last 2 years, that I put my hand on my chest and I say, I am loved. I am Jesus. I am one with you. You are one with me. Together we are one. And I believe that about myself, even though I'm aware of my foibles and I don't focus on that, because that is not who I am in him. That's not who he made me to be. It's not who he intended me to be. So it's our identity, the identity we think about in our lives, is so critically important. And I must say, there's not a day that I wake up in the morning where I'm not thinking, where a thought of some kind, at some point within the few minutes of waking up, a negative thought doesn't come to mind. Whether it's something not looking forward to the day, or about myself, or about circumstance, and some negative thought, and that is the seed of distraction for the rest of the day. And if I latch onto it, that seed grows into something that God, my Father in heaven, never intended for me to take hold of.
Would you say, Ian, that you're experiencing the Garden of Eden in the metaphor of it?
Yeah,
in the dynamic of it?
Well, that is what I, if it's the Garden of Eden, that I think that's what God has intended for us to have through Christ, is that salvation, By the way, the word save, it's really interesting. I just learned this a couple of weeks ago. The word save in its original Greek language also means to heal. And so that's why Jesus is referred to as a great physician. He came to heal and to save those who were lost. Okay, so that says a lot to me, to my own heart. I need that healing. But yes, I think the Garden of Eden is a very good. He came to bring us back to Eden. Uh, and some people might say, well, that's what heaven is. Well, so be it. I don't know what heaven is going to look like. It's definitely not just clouds and strumming a harp. Uh,
I'm
it
good at
is.
the heart.
You're too sophisticated for that. Could I ask you one question?
Sure.
Because I think that our Christian mythology is one of many that describe this dynamic that you just talked about when you woke up in the morning. And the Hopis have a creation story. The Aborigines have a creation story, and they pretty much match. And that's, what Joseph Campbell, that was his life. They pretty much match the same dynamic that's going on. Is that, do we allow this negativity to distract us from who we really are, which is, to me, is a metaphor would be the child of God, because each creation story describes the civilization that follows out of that creation story. Would you agree with that, or is that where you don't, or what are your thoughts on that?
Well, I'm not a pantheist, or I'm not sure if pantheism is where you're leading toward, but
No,
I'm not necessarily believing that all religions are equal. Um, my
I don't think all religions are equal.
Well, what I mean by that is to say that there's a lot of similarity in a lot of faiths. Um, I need a God who's willing to come down to my level and save me from myself, save me from the world that we're in, save not just me, but everybody. And um, that's what he did.
Yeah, I mean, I hear that. It's like, if I don't, I guess what I always look at is that's the witch in the pocket. Like, well, I got the truth and nobody else has it.
No, I'm not. I don't go at it with that attitude. I'm willing to allow people to have whatever opinion they want to have. I do have my opinion about that. Um,
That's what I wanted to know. Are others' way to realize God? Are they valid to you, or are they in error?
they're not valid to me for me. No.
Right. No, that's okay.
Yeah.
Because we have to listen to our own small voice. And if we listen to somebody else's, then we're betraying ourselves, I think.
I'm reminded of the proverb that says that God does govern every man's heart differently, uniquely.
Yeah, there's no question that each of us is different in how he's going to respond. You are not me and I am not you. And I tell my wife, I've told her for years, don't ever try to get into my head. It'll drive you mad,
Yeah.
Because it's true. um, so I believe it when Jesus said that I am the way, the truth, and life. No man comes to the Father but through me. There's a reason, there's a reason he said that. There's a reason why John 3:16 is so significant a verse to me. For God so loved the world that he gave his only son, that whoever believes in him will not perish but have everlasting life. So if that everlasting life is Eden, as you referred to a moment ago, then I'll take that. But I can't define that in my time constrained mindset. You know,
This is where I like to, and we got to close things off soon,
Yeah.
right? Because Audrey Lynn has her experimenter session with me next, which you're welcome to stay. I'll just put you backstage and we'll go through the whole thing.
I have another meeting I've got to go to.
Yeah, and this goes to the, oh my goodness, lost my train of thought. Remind me real quick what we were just talking about.
The
Oh,
that
I refer to Jesus saying that I am the way, the truth, and life.
yeah.
The
Oh,
Gospel
my
of John
goodness.
3:16, talking about maybe you'll remember that for next time.
I'll have to remember it for next time.
It's allowing, and I appreciate that viewpoint. It's one of the reasons that made me question just the church's interpretation. I was Catholic, and the whole thing of that everybody else is a heathen except a Catholic, who has the direct line from Peter, and they have really good reasons, because they were the only church. But there's something that's mean and tight, and power is involved in that too. A lot of destruction.
Yep.
But at any rate, it didn't sit with me. So I appreciate that you don't hold anything for anybody else, and it becomes the I don't know. It goes in the I don't know box. I don't
demand other people think the way I think or believe what I believe. The church, and by that I mean the General Motors Corporation of Jesus Christ, does believe that. Okay, and that goes back centuries. But that started with a particular mindset, and that mindset began with a lie, and that lie has led us to where we are today. And if I just read the words of Jesus and I see who Jesus is, it's a totally different mindset.
Well, if I don't see you guys again, I hope you have a great Christmas, and I hope the birth is successful.
Blessings to you all.
Yeah, the midwife is love.
Yeah. Have a great rest of the day, everybody. Thanks so much for
You
this wonderful
guys.
content. This is always
Bye-bye.
wonderful.